The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 6, Section 1, Lectures and Discourses. The method and purpose of religion. In studying the religion of the world, we generally find two methods of procedures. The one is from God to man. That is to say, we have the Semitic group of religion in which the idea of God comes almost from the very first, and strangely enough, without any idea of soul. It was very remarkable amongst the ancient Hebrews that until very recent period in their history, they never evolved any idea of human soul. Men are composed of certain mind and material particles, and that was all. With death, everything ended. But on the other hand, there are most wonderful ideas of God evolved by the same race. This is one of the method of procedure. The other is through man to God. The second is peculiarly Aryan and first peculiarly Semitic. The Aryan first began with the soul. His idea of God here hazy or where hazy indistinguishable, not very clear, but as his idea of human soul began to be clearer, his idea of God began to be clearer in the same proportion. So the inquiry in the Vedas was always through the soul. All the knowledge the Aryans got of God was through the human soul, from was through the human soul, and such the peculiar stamp that has been left upon their whole cycle of philosophy is that introspective search after divinity. The Aryan man was always seeking divinity inside his own self. It became, in course of time, natural characteristic. It is remarkable in their art and in their commonest dealing. Even at the present time, if we take a European picture of a man in the religious attitude, the painter always makes his subject point his eyes upward, looking outside of nature for God, looking up into the sky. In India, on the other hand, religious attitude is always presented by making the subject close his eyes. He is, as it were, looking inward. These are the two subjects of study for men, external and internal nature. And though at first this seems to be contradictory, yet external nature must, to the ordinary man, be entirely exposed or composed of internal nature, the world of thoughts. The majority of philosophies in every country, especially in the West, have started with the assumption that these two, matter and mind, are contradictory existence. But in the long run, we shall find that they converge towards each other, in the end unite and form an infinite whole. So it is not that by this analysis, I mean a higher or lower standpoint with regard to these subjects. I do not mean that those who want to search after truth through external nature are wrong, nor those who want to search after truth through internal nature are higher. These are the two modes of procedures. Both of them must live, both of them must be studied, and in the end, we must find that they meet. We shall see that neither is the body antagonist to the mind, nor the mind to the body. Although we find many persons who think that this body is nothing. In old times, every country was full of people who thought this body was only a disease, a sin, something of that kind. Later on, however, we see how, as it was taught in the Vedas, this body melts into the mind and the mind into the body. You must remember the one theme that runs through all the Vedas. Just as by the knowledge of one lump of the clay we know all the clay that is in the universe, so what it said, or what is that, knowing which we know everything else. This expression, more or less clearly, is the theme of all human knowledge. It is the finding of the unity towards which we are all going. Every action of our lives, the most material, the grossest, as well as the finest, highest, and the most spiritual, is alike tending towards this one ideal, the finding of unity. A man is single, he marries. Apparently, it may be a selfish act, but at the same time, the impulsion, the motive power is to find that unity. He has children, he has friends, he loves his country, he loves the world, and ends by loving the whole universe. Irrespective, we are impelled towards the perfection, which consists in finding the unity, killing this little self and making ourselves broader and broader. This is the goal, the end towards which the universe is rushing. Every atom is trying to go and join itself to the next atom. Atoms after atoms combine, making huge ball. The earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets. They in their turn are trying to rush towards each other. And at last we know that the whole universe, mental and material, will be fused into one. The process that is going on in the customs on the large scale is the same as that going on in the microcosm on the small scale. Just as the universe has its existence towards unity, non-separation, so in our little worlds, each soul is one, as it were, cut off from the rest of the world. The more ignorant, the more ignorant, the more unenlightened the soul. The more it thinks that it is separate from the rest of the universe. The more ignorant the person, the more he think he will die or he will be born, and so forth. Ideas that are the expressions of this separateness. But we find that as knowledge comes, man grows, morality is evolved, and the idea of non-separateness begins. Whether man understands it or not, they are impelled by the power behind to become unselfish. That is the foundation of all morality. It is the quite essence of all ethics preached in any language or in any religion or by any prophet in the world. Be thou selfish, be thou unselfish. No, I, but thou. That is the background of all the ethical codes. Be thou unselfish. And what is meant by this is the what is meant by this is the recognition of non-individuality, that you are the part of me and I of you. The recognition that is hurting you, I hurt myself, and in helping you, I help myself. The recognition that there cannot possibility be death for me when you leave. When one worm lives in the universe, how can I die? For my life is in the life of the worm. At the same time, it will teach us that we cannot leave one of our fellow being without helping him. That is that in his good consists my good. This is the theme that runs through the whole of Vedants and which runs through every other religion. For you must remember, religions divide themselves generally into three parts. There is a first part consisting of the philosophy, the essence, the principle of every religion. These principles find expressions in mythology, lives, lives of the saints or heroes, demigods or gods or divine beings. The whole idea of this mythology is that of power. And in the lower class mythologies, the expressions of this power is in the muscles. The heroes are strong and gigantic. One hero conquers the whole world. As man advances, he must find expressions and for his energy higher than in the muscles. So his hero also finds expression in something higher. The higher mythologists have heroes who are gigantic moral men. Their strength is manifested in becoming moral and pure. They can stand alone, they can beat back the surging tide of the selfishness and immorality. The third portion of all religion is symbolism, which you all which you call which you all call ceremonial and forms. Even the expressions through mythology, the lives of heroes is not sufficient for all. There are minds still lower, like children's. They must have the kindergarten of religion. And these symbologies symbologies are evolved. Concrete examples which then can handle and grasp and understand, which they can see and feel has material something. So, in every religion, you find there are three stages: philosophy, mythology, and ceremonial. There is one advantage which can be pleaded for the Vedanta, that in India, fortunately, these three stages have been sharply defined. In other religions, the principles are so interwoven with the mythology that it is very hard to distinguish one from other. The mythology stands superior, swallowing up the principle, and in the course of centuries, the principle are lost of sight. The explanation, the illustration of the principle swallow up the principle. The people see only the explanation, the prophet, the preachers, who, while the principles have been out of existence almost. So much so that even today, if a man dares to preach the principle of Christianity apart from Christ, they will try to attack him and think he is wrong and dealing blows at Christianity. In the same way, if the man wants to preach the principle of Mohammedanism, Mohammedan will think the same, because concrete ideas, the lives of great men and prophet have entirely overshadowed the principles. In Vedanta, the chief advantage is that it was not the work of single man, and therefore naturally, unlike Buddhism, unlike Christianity or Mohammedanism, the prophet or teacher did not entirely swallow up or overshadowed the principle. The principles lives, and the prophet has it where for the secondary groups unknown to Vedanta. The Upanishad speaks of no particular prophet, but they speak of various prophet and prophetesses. The old Hebrews had something of that idea. Yet we find Moses occupying most of the space of Hebrew's literature. Of course, I do not mean that it is bad that this prophet should take religious hold of the nation, but it certainly is very injurious if the whole field of principle is lost sight of. We can very much agree at has two principles, but not very much has to persons. The persons appeal to our emotions and the principles to something higher, to our calm judgment. Principles must conquer in long run. For that is the manhood of man. Emotions many times drag up down to the level of animal. Emotions have more connection with the senses than with the faculty of reason, and therefore when principles are entirely lost sight of and emotion prevails, religions degenerate into fanaticism and sectarianism. They are no better than party politics and such things. The most horribly or ignorant notion will be taken up, and for these ideas thousands will be ready to cut the throat of their brethren. This is the reason that though these great personalities and prophets are tremendous motive powers for good, at the same time disregard of the principle they represent, that has always led to fanaticism and has deluged the world in blood. Vedanta can avoid this difficulty because it has not one specific prophet. It has many shears who are called as rishis or sages. Shears, that is the literal translation. Those who see this truth, the mantras. The word mantra means thought out, cognited, cognited by the mind, and the rishi is the shear of these thoughts. They are neither the property of particular person nor the exclusive property of any man or woman, however greater or great he or she may be, nor even the exclusive property of the greatest spirit like Buddha or Christ, whom the world has produced. They are as much the property of the lowest of the low as they are the property of the Buddha, as much the property of the smallest worm that crawls as of the Christ. Because they are universal principles, they were never created. These principles have existed throughout time and they will exist. They are non-create. They are non-create, uncreated by any laws which science teaches us today. They remain covered and become discovered, but are existing through all eternity in nature. If Newton had if Newton had not been born, the law of gravitation would have remained all the same and would have worked all the same. It was Newton's genius which formulated it, discovered it, and brought it into consciousness, made it conscious thing to the human race. So are these religious laws, the grand truth of spirituality. They are working all the time. If all the Vedas and the Bibles and the Puranas did not exist at all, if seers and prophets had never been born, yet these laws would exist. They are only held in abeyance and slowly but surely would work to raise the human race, to raise the human nature. But they are the prophet who they are the prophet who see them, discover them, and such prophets are discoverers in the field of spirituality. As Newton and Galileo were prophets of the physical science, so are they prophets of spirituality. Can come no exclusive right. They can claim no exclusive right to any one of this law. They are the common properties of all nature. The Vedas, as the Hindus say, are eternal. We now understand what they mean by their being eternal. That is, that the law have neither beginning nor end, just as nature have neither beginning nor end. Earth after earth, system after system will evolve, run for a certain time, and then dissolve back again into chaos. But the universe remains the same. Millions and millions of systems are being born, while millions are being destroyed. The universe remains the same. The beginning and the end of time can be told as regards the certain planets, but regards the universe, time has no meaning at all. So are the laws of nature, the physical laws, the mental laws, the spiritual laws. Without beginning and without end are they. And it is within a few years, comparatively speaking, a few thousand years at best, that man has tried to reveal them. The infinite mass remains before us. Therefore, the one great lesson that we learn from the Vedas at the start is that religion has just begun. The infinite ocean of spiritual truth lies before us to be worked on, to be discovered, to be brought into our lives. The world has seen thousands of prophets, and the world has yet to see the millions. There were times in old days when prophets were many in every society. The time is to come when prophets will walk through every street in every city of in every world. In old times, particularly peculiar persons were so to speak selected by the operation of laws of society to become prophet. The time is coming when we shall understand that to become religious means to become the prophet, that none can become religious until he or she becomes a prophet. He shall we shall come to understand that the secret of religion is not being able to think or and say all these thoughts, but as the Vedas teach, to realize them, to realize newer and higher one than have ever been realized, to discover them, bring them to society, and the study of religion should be the training to make profit. The school, the colleges should be training grounds for profit. The whole universe must become prophet, and until a man becomes a prophet, religion is mockery, and by word unto him. We must see religions, feel it, realize it in a thousand times more intense a sense than that in which we see the walls. But there is one principle which underlies all these various manifestations of religion and which has already mapped out of us or for us. Every science must end where it finds a unity, because we cannot go any further. When the perfect unity is reached, that science has nothing more of principle to tell us. All the work that religion have to do is to work out the details. Take any science, for example, chemistry. Suppose we can find one element out of which we can manufacture all the other elements. This chemistry as a science will become perfect, and what will remain for us is to discover every day new combination of that one material and the application of those combinations for all the purpose of life. So, with religion, the gigantic principle, the scope, the plan of religion were already discovered ages ago when a man found the last word, as they called, of Vedas. I am he. That there is that one in whom this whole universe of matter and mind finds its unity, whom they call God or Brahman or Allah or Jehovah or any other name. We cannot go beyond that. The grand principle has been already mapped out for us. Our work lies in filling it in, working it out, applying it to every part of our lives, and we have to work now so that everyone will become the prophet. There is great work before us. In old times, many did not understand what the prophet meant. They thought it was something by chance, that just by the fiat of will or some superior intelligence, a man gains superior power or superior knowledge. In modern times, we are prepared to demonstrate that this knowledge is the birthright of every living being, whosoever and whosoever he be, and that there is no chance in the universe. Every man who we think gets something by chance has been working for it slowly and surely through the ages, and the whole question devolves upon us. Do we want to be prophet? If we want, we shall be. This, the training of the prophet, is a great work that lies before us, and consciously or unconsciously, all the great system of religion are working towards this one great goal. Only with the difference in many in many religions you will find they declare that this perception, this direct perception of spirituality is not to be had in this life, that man must die. After his death, there will come a time in another world when he will have visions of spirituality, when he will realize things which now he must believe. But Vedant will ask all the people who make such assertions, then how do you know that spirituality exists? And they will have to answer that there must have been always certain peculiar people who, even in their lives, have got a glimpse of things which are unknown and unknowable. Even this makes it difficult. If they were peculiar people having this power, especially by chance, we have no right to believe in them. It would be a sin to believe in anything that is by chance, because we cannot know it. What is meant by knowledge? Destruction of peculiarity. Suppose a boy goes into a street or a menagerie and sees a peculiarly shaped animal. He does not know what it is. Then he goes to the country where there are hundreds like that ones, and he is satisfied. He knows what the species is. Our knowledge is knowing the principle. Our non Our non knowledge is finding the particular without reference to principles. When we find one case or a few cases separate from the principle without any references to the principle, we are in darkness and do not know. Now, if this prophet, as they say, were peculiar persons who alone had the right to catch a glimpse of that which is beyond, and no one else has the right. We should not believe in these prophets because they are peculiar cases without any references to the principle. We can only believe in them if we ourselves become prophet. You all, you all of all hear about the various jokes that gets involved that get into the newspapers about the sea serpent, and why should it be so? Because a few persons at a long intervals came and told their stories about the sea serpent, and others never see it. They have no peculiar principle to which to refer, and therefore the world should not believe. If a man comes to me and says a prophet disappeared into the air and went through it, I have the right to see that. I ask him, did your father or grandfather see it? Oh no, he replies. But 5,000 years ago, such a thing happened, and if I do not believe it, I have to be barbecued through eternity. What a mass of superstition this is, and its effect is to degrade man from his divine nature to that of brutes. Why are reasons given us? Why was reasons given us if we have to believe? Is it not tremendously blasphemous to believe against reasons? What right have we not to use the greatest gift that God has given to us? I am sure God will pardon a man who believes blindly instead of using the faculty He has given him. He simply regards or degrades his nature and goes down to the level of the beast, degrades his senses and dies. We must reason, and when reason proves us the truth of this prophet and the great man about whom the ancient book speaks in every country, we shall believe in them. We shall believe in them when we see such prophet among ourselves. We shall then find that they were not peculiar men, but only illustrations of certain particles or principles. They they worked, and that principle expressed itself naturally, and we shall have to work to express the principle in us. They were prophets, and we shall believe. When we become prophets, they were shears of things divine. They could go beyond the bounds of senses and catch a glimpse of that which is beyond. We shall believe that when when we are able to go, when we are able to do it ourselves and not before. That is the one principle of Vedant. Vedant declares that religion is here and now because the question of this life and that life of life and that this world and that world is merely one superstition and prejudice. There is no break in time beyond what we make. What difference is there between 10 and 12 o'clock except what we make by certain changes is nature? Time flows on the same. So, what is meant by this life or that life? It is only a question of time, and what is lost in time may be made up by speed in work. So says Vedant. Religion is to be realized now. And for you to become religious means that you will start without any religion. Work your way up and realize things. See things for yourself. And when you have done that, then and then alone, you have religion. Before that, you are no better than an atheist or worst, because the atheist is sincere. He stands up and says, I do not know about these things, while those others do not know but go about the world saying, we are very religious people. What religion they have, no one knows, because they have swallowed some grandmother's stories and priests have asked them to believe these things. If they do, if they do not, then let them take care. That is how it goes. Realization of religion is the only way. Each one of us will have to discover of what use are these books then, these Bibles of the world. They are of great use, just as maps are of the country. I have seen maps of the England all my life before I came here, and they were great help to me in forming some sort of conceptions of England, some conception of England. Yet when I arrived in this country, what what a difference between the map and the country itself. So is the difference between the realization and the scriptures. These books are only the maps, the express experiences of past as a motive power to us to dare to make the same experiences and discover in the same way, if not better.